what if what you think is burnout is actually distraction? The exhaustion coming from screen fatigue and being pulled in a million different directions might actually be causing that freeze response. And the more distracted you are, the more it seems to be stealing more of your life. So in this video, I'm going to dig into how distraction is actually stealing your life and how to start taking back your agency and reclaiming your attention. So a few days ago, I was in the grocery store and I walked past this family looking for some box of something. And what stood out to me the most was the mom was talking, she was saying something, and the dad was at the front of the cart, pushing the cart, and they had a toddler in the little child seat. And the dad was engrossed in his phone, and so was the toddler, like 2 or 3 years old, just glued to a screen. And I walked past this family and my heart just broke. It's like families, people, friends, nobody seems to be able to be together without everyone glued to their phone. And it just really got me thinking about how much we're losing, how much of our life we're losing by being glued to a screen. What I saw was a snapshot in time, but I see it everywhere I go, and I think you do too. It's solidified that distraction is a thief. It doesn't announce itself, it doesn't kick the door in, it just slips in quietly when you're paying attention to something else on the screen and walks right out the door with everything that used to matter. And what's so sneaky is that distraction is sold as FOMO, that fear of missing out. Busyness is somehow sold as purpose. We go, go, go. We don't think about where we're going, what we're doing, why we're doing it. And then we're sold another lie that this is just how life is. Deal with it, suck it up, it's not going anywhere, it's unavoidable. And these are lies that have rendered us bankrupt of something that is so much more precious than anything money could ever buy, and that's our souls. And the enemy of our souls comes only to steal, kill, and destroy, not through dramatic displays of destruction, but through the tiny little taps of inconvenience and those little distractions that leave very little room for God and just enough room for the enemy to seed his lies into the soil of our mind. And to be clear, distraction is not a new tactic of the enemy, but his ability to wield it has never been easier, thanks to the little computer that we have in our pocket. And distraction seems so pervasive that it does beg the question, is it even possible to fight back, let alone win? And to that I say, absolutely. With God, all things are possible, and he did not leave us without hope. So here's the truth. We are formed by what we behold. We're formed by what we gaze on, by what we look at the most. So the question is not, am I being formed? The question is, by what am I being formed? And we can find answers to that question by looking at the fruit of our lives. What's coming out of my mouth most of the time? What are my most frequent impulses? How am I treating other people? Out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. And we're all familiar with that phrase, you are what you eat. Every cell in our body is built from the food that we consume. So if we're constantly taking in junk, then our bodies are going to start to break down, garbage in, garbage out. Paul said it in Romans 12:2 that we are to be transformed by the renewing of our mind and not to be conformed to this world. He somehow understood an ancient truth 2,000 years before neuroscience decided to put a nice sciencey label on it. The world is forming you whether you consent to it or not. But the good news is that formation also works in both directions. What you give your attention to shapes you, which means redirecting your attention slowly, imperfectly, toward the true, the good, and the beautiful also starts to shape you. So distraction is one of the many tools that the enemy uses to keep people moving along the assembly line of rote stupor. He's the one that benefits when you're not paying attention, when you're not paying attention to your own thoughts, to what you're dwelling on. what your habits are actually forming in you. And when the gates are down, when we're not paying attention, it allows in the very forces whose sole goal is to destroy you and to keep you from actually living, to keep you from life. So this really is not a time management problem. It's not just a time management problem. It's also, this is a battle for the human soul. C.S. Lewis seemed to understand this. In his book, The Screw Tape Letters, that I'm reading right now, in the book, a senior demon named Screwtape is instructing his nephew, Junior Demon, Wormwood, what a name, on how to capture the human soul and corrupt the human soul. And it's not through dramatic moral collapse or devastating sins. It's actually through the tiny, unnoticed onslaughts of distraction. Death from 1,000 cuts, none of which feel like death at the time. And if the enemy can keep your attention fractured, you are easier to control and manipulate. If he can make virtue seem like fantasy, then we succumb to our base impulses without a fight. 1 Peter 5:8 says, "Be sober-minded, be watchful. Your adversary, the devil, prowls around like a roaring lion, seeking someone to devour." And 2 Peter 2:19 says, "For whatever overcomes a person, to that he is enslaved." There's a reason this has always been his tactic. In the Garden of Eden, the enemy asked Eve a question. Did God really say? Did God really say? A question that was anything but a question. A question that was more of a statement. Did God really say? 4 words. That was all it took to seed doubt. God was holding out on her, that if she didn't partake of that fruit, she would miss out on limitless knowledge. You will become like God. That was the original lie. And here we are, thousands of years later, and our phones sell us a false sense of omnipresence that we were never meant to operate from. The lie that we can and should be everywhere, know everything, never miss out on a moment. That FOMO. It's the exact same offer that the serpent offered Eve in the garden. It's just now repackaged with a notification badge. And here's the irony. We already are like God. We bear his image. We were created in the image of God. We're his imagers. But we were never meant to be omnipresent or omniscient. We weren't meant to be anywhere, everywhere, all the time, knowing everything about everything. We were never meant to bear the weight of the world. We were never given omniscience and omnipresence and all the other omnis. And honestly, what a relief. If you think about it, that is a relief. So instead of just saying yes to whatever crosses your path, take a pause, breathe. Invite the Holy Spirit into that moment. Ask him, is this something that I should do? Is this even meant for me? And then be still. That's the hard part. But train yourself to be still and let him give you counsel. So what do we actually do? Like, what can we do? Building these guardrails and safety protocols, if you will, is really not a self-help project. Like, we're not machines. Building guardrails is an act of faithfulness, and it is stewardship of the soul, the only soul that God gave you. It's stewardship of the mind and the body, your entire being, the only one that you have. And every guardrail you put in place is a brick in that wall. Some things that I've been experimenting with lately that have really proven to be just an absolute refuge for me is, the first thing is, I've started turning my phone all the way off. And these are not necessarily novel things. They are so basic, but sometimes we want for things to be more complicated than they should be. Not everything needs to be complicated. So I've been turning my phone all the way off in the evening and keeping it off until mid-morning, until after I have woken up to the day. And the silence, like knowing that my phone was not going to be buzzing, was a bit startling at first, to be honest, but it has become a relief. It's still not always easy, but having that tiny barrier of knowing it's off is proving itself to be enough to keep me from reaching for it. The other thing that has been a huge game changer for me is in the morning, again, instead of reaching to turn my phone on, I'm getting into the scriptures and I'm praying. I'm consecrating my day. I am connecting with God before I enter the madness of the world. And that has also been just a game changer for my anxiety levels. Like I'm not jumping right into whatever is happening in the world. I am orienting myself into the love of God first, anchoring into truth before jumping into the craziness of the world. Another thing is I've been writing a lot of my essay drafts for my Substack essay in a notebook, like good old pen and paper. I don't do that with all of them, but sometimes I'll just take a notebook and just write out my thoughts, write out an initial draft. And it has been wonderfully inconvenient. At times, it's just helping me to think more clearly, like my thoughts are coming out more clear. And also, writing on paper, drafting things on paper becomes its own guardrail in a way from that temptation of reaching for my phone to, just check my email real quick or just check the weather. And I know for me, I don't know about for you, but I need a plan. I need some kind of system to keep me on track. And it's not a matter of rigidity or putting everything I enjoy on a to do list. But if I don't track it, I'm going to forget about it. I need a plan and I need a system for a lot of things, for most things. And it gives me a tangible alternative to scrolling or wanting to check YouTube or anything like that. So, especially for reading, I create my own reading plan, and I've talked about this before in other videos, but for June, I'm not going to probably get through all of these books, but most of them I am. But I'll create some kind of grid where I know what page counts I need to read for that day because I enjoy reading and I don't want the craziness and busyness of the day to just get away from me. And because I value reading so much, I have to create time for it. And also, it's another way of getting a healthier hit of dopamine, of being able to cross out or highlight out my completion of pages for that day because I have to earn it. And it's actually way more satisfying. So, what can you do? Just start with a simple audit. Where are you most vulnerable to distraction? Make your own list. If we want to live with intention, reclaim our attention, and get our lives back, it's going to require guardrails and boundaries to protect our spirit, our mind, our hearts. This world is not neutral. If you don't put your own boundaries and guardrails in place, then somebody else will. And also be kind to yourself. Distraction did not set up shop overnight, and breaking those patterns are not going to happen overnight either. Ask the Holy Spirit to help you, and He will. The thief of distraction has been walking in and out of our homes for a long time because we left the door wide open. And the beautiful thing is that it is absolutely possible to get it back. So lock the door, stand watch, rebuild those walls. Your attention, your soul, your very life is worth protecting. It's worth guarding. If this resonated with you, I actually wrote about this on my Substack way more in depth. So if that sounds interesting to you, I put the link to my Substack in the description below. I'd love to have you over there and would love to know what your thoughts are in the comments below, what you're committing to doing now to push back on distraction. And per usual, if this resonated, give this a like, share it with someone that you think would be encouraged by it, and subscribe if you're not already subscribed. And I will talk to you next time.